ready for whatever. The groupies won't even try 'em. Niggas can't even buy 'em. That's how she keep her pride. She ready, but she ain't ready to let me come inside. That's right. It's Friday night, baby. We can do it right. Party to the morning light if you like. I'm for whatever. Let's stay together like Al Green and others. She told me she wouldn't let me, but
All right, this is the ESPC podcast where every single podcast is a business meeting with a specific purpose and a specific outcome. The purpose is to make you and us money predicting the outcome of sporting events, in this case, UFC fights. Like Elon Musk says, when you get to the truth, you can start predicting outcome. When you continue to predict outcomes successfully, then you can get ahead of those outcomes and monetize, right? That's the purpose. That's what drives our action. From an NBA, 30th license, worth $50 million in the club because of our purpose and our actions. And what is the outcome? The outcome is that 52 weeks in a year, in 42 weeks, we've been doing this podcast. Games has been profitable 40% of the time. Not 40%, 40 out of 42% of the time. North of 90%. Now, in probability theory, and we use a lot of different, you'll see them in the episode notes, a lot of different methodologies to get to consistently to predict outcomes. But in probability theory, the highest level of probability theory is 80%. So James is north of that. So we are compounding. People are having problems right now with a credit card, right? Because the credit card compounds interest, taking money out of your pocket. James is compounding interest every week he wins, putting money into your pocket. Well, thank you, James, for doing that, man. And congratulations on a great year.
Definitely had a great year this year. We've got a break to do some research, work out the kinks, and have an even better week or a better year next year. So excited to get moving forward. But real quick, we'll just recap some of the couple more recent ones that we've had over this year.
Awesome. So last week, how did we do last week before we get into the big wins you have? Because if you know what you're doing, you're getting big plus money bets. And that's what James produced on a consistent basis in 2025. But last week, how did we do?
Yeah, so the last couple of weeks, we've been on an absolute roll. We've been making massive profit for about the past 3. Last week, we weren't on quite as much of a roll. We pretty much floated around even for the most of the card, which isn't how we wanted to end the year, but we were able to stay out of the red. So we're calling that a win in our book as we move forward.
I'm calling it a win because in this podcast, they were different than a lot of UFC podcasts because we're a legitimate podcast. So anytime you look at how to check the box for every podcast, right? We check every box. And we got a Substack. We are top 7th overall sports betting podcast in the state of Florida. 6th overall for C spot the whole year round. We're going to get higher as we keep growing. But our audience is a sophisticated audience that makes a lot of money. So last week, I made money because what is a podcast about, right? You're walking, listening to us as you're walking your dog, as you're jogging, as you're doing work, wrapping Christmas presents in the background, people have said, and you have to listen. And because I was listening to what James was saying, for whatever reason, whenever I picked and I clicked on the sports book, I had more money than before. Even the main events and the co-main events you split, I only ended up betting the one that James got right, and it was a plus money right. And of course, sometimes you go against what James says because, right, this is not a cult, right? Even though he's the prophet, there's not a religious thing where he looks in the crystal ball and knows everything. I ended up picking Joshua Van, right? And made money on that. So if you listen, you will make money. What are your thoughts on that, James?
No, 100%. Couldn't have said it better. We're here mostly to give you information. And it's still up to you to make the decision at the end of the day. Like, our listeners aren't sheep. We're just here to inform you to make the best choices you can.
Absolutely. So we'll go in reverse order. Again, if you know what you're doing, you're getting plus money bets, right? And people watching on other videos will get the visual, put some of these visuals in the episode notes. But describe to us what you were thinking before that Sean Brady fight. And I'll give you a spoiler for the end. You got that one plus 50. What were you thinking before? And what actually happened during that fight, James?
Yeah, and so that one was a great one for us because we actually had 3 separate bets on that fight. We had 4, and 3 of the 4 that we had on that fight hit. So that fight in itself was a massive profit. And going into that one, Michael Morales was kind of more the up-and-comer, where Sean Brady was kind of staying stagnant around the top rankings, but he just wasn't that impressive to me. Like, yes, he submitted Leon and did very well against him, but Leon's been kind of on a downward spiral ever since his Kamaru Usman win days. So that really didn't mean too much to me. And Sean Brady's stand-up is just not that good. He's one of the few, the only person that Bilal Muhammad has actually knocked out in his career. And if Bilal Muhammad can knock you out, Michael Morales is going to put you out badly. And we saw what he did to Gilbert Burns, who has a similar style to Sean Brady. And so in my mind, that one was a no-brainer. Took Michael Morales' money line. He was plus around 115, I believe. We took him by knockout at plus 330. And then we also had Sean Brady by submission or Michael Morales by knockout, just in case Sean Brady snuck out the submission. And of course, that one hit as well for plus 120 or 150.
Love it. And that was the conclusion of that, man. That was the solution to that. And my background, when I looked at it, had a big spot in his spike. Man, listening to James, awesome stuff. Then one of the most enjoyed, because this one hit on all levels, right? Because life is short. Like James is saying, he hits things on 3-dimensional levels. This was a very entertaining fight. This was a very questionable fight. But the conclusion, the solution is we made a lot of money. So what were you thinking before that Derek Lewis fight? Yeah, we ended up getting, spoiler alert, plus 320.
Yeah, so for the Derek Lewis one, that one was really interesting because he was facing Talishan Teixeira. And when you look at his record, he had only had one fight prior in the UFC. One single UFC fight. Yes, he won by knockout, but it was over one of the Tafa brothers. So not necessarily like a top contender. And it just seems so early to give someone that new in their career to Derek Lewis, who has been at the top for a long time. He has records of most knockouts in the UFC. He is a knockout machine who has fought the best of the best, most skilled opponents. So he's a hardened veteran, and it's going to take a lot more than just pure explosive power to take him out or athleticism. Like it's going to take some actual training and technicality. Right. And that's just not something Talisman has developed yet. I mean, he had one fight, which he won by knockout on Dana White's Contender Series, which hard to gauge those because oftentimes they're bums. Some of them are bums. The guys who don't get contracts and lose, you find out that they're not that good. And then, the win over one of the Tafa brothers. And then straight to Derek Lewis. That's just an insane step up. So, of course, we had to go against him and stick with Derek Lewis. And, that one was great. That one was a great read. I was actually shocked that he was such an underdog. That's one that we just couldn't walk away from.
No, big time. And experience is key. I know that was in a foreign land, so that throws things off. Another thing to look at is that Dana White, he doesn't care about the success of the fighters, obviously. If you think about it, what he cares about is having an exciting fight night and then experience. And you got one thing I'll learn in life, right? I'll give James some unsolicited advice. Stay in the shape you're in, man. It's just before you get out of shape and you start getting back into shape and you're running 5 miles a day, you're doing 200 sit-ups, you're lifting 3 times a week, and you end up being in better shape than what you look. So that could happen to a Derek Lewis when he's in better shape than what he looks, in the stamina and the cardio, and you blink for a second, Derek Lewis hits you and you're out. And that's what happened to this guy. He was there for a while and he didn't understand that lightning can strike at any time, and you have to be the way a guy looks. Derek Lewis looked kind of fat, but he was obviously to be able to last as long as he did, to go from grappling to striking to all the things he did. He was in great shape, and he was holding enough in his stance because he's experienced to knock somebody out. So that's what that guy needed to know, and that's what I needed to know about UFC as I watched, as I learned from James. All right, and then Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez is in history because he was the name of the first Spanish king. So I'll look to see whether this is really Diego Lopez's real name, or you see that, right? He wrote himself all right. So describe to us, again, spoiler alert, we got that at 350. Listening. Podcast is about listening. So a guy gives you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listening to what James is saying. He's an expert. Why is he an expert? Because he's proven it. 40 out of 42 weeks of profit. So what were you thinking before the Diego Lopez fight, and what actually happened during that fight?
Yeah, so that one was a lot trickier to decide. That one was a lot more difficult than the past two that we talked about. Those two, it seemed like the odds makers were giving us layups there. This one was actually really difficult because Gene Silva is, again, very good, very skilled, very technical, and was on a tear prior to that. Unfortunately, the one thing that these all have in common is the strength of schedule component, whereas Diego Lopez's strength of schedule was just much better than his opponents here. I mean, his last fight before that one was a championship fight. 5 long, hard rounds against Volkanovski. He didn't win, but that's just more like gas in the tank, that veteran status, the more grind, really fighting through it and being able to like maintain composure. Whereas Gene Silva was used to walking through easier opponents, easy cans, and he was very cocky. And it's that cockiness that threw it for him. He honestly could have won that fight if he had been less cocky. So that's why we took his money line for Diego Lopez. And then I believe we put that little sprinkle for knockout, which was that plus 350. So I think we hit 2 on that one as well, which again, very close, very good fight. More difficult to predict, but it's just that strength of schedule that we keep leaning on. And that strength of schedule has really given us so many Hail Marys throughout the year. We've got all of our best picks solely based on past opponents and really the trajectory of that.
In a way, I hate to give breaking news, but we'll have it all on the Substack article. This will be more when it's breaking news like this, and you're gonna hesitate kind of saying it. It's gonna be exclusively on the Substack. It's only $12.99. You'll get paid with this kind of information for being on there. And I'll just give you the facts, and I'll give you the analysis on Substack. But the highest level of probability is 80%. And for James to be 40 out of 42 weeks, if you get above 80%, it's because you know there's some sort of manipulation. And if James knows the strength of schedule, I make it know the strength of schedule, right? But maybe they put 350 to shy, make people who aren't as intelligent as James is to shy away. And James is a contrarian, right? And people who make the most money and the most intelligent people are contrarians, right? They knew that the Epstein files were going to come out tonight. Redacted. They knew it, right? If that was the best, we would have gotten right. So I'll leave it there. And I'll give quotes to American Integrity Group, who has the low-level satellites following people and say that 8% of sporting events are manipulated. We don't cry or talk about politics or morality about it. We just look at what the truth is and anticipate the truth and make money off the outcome. So, man, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of insight to the world around you. The quickest way to get killed, like the kids at Brown, not knowing your surroundings. 25. What are your closing thoughts as we head into 2026? We'll have content out every week, but we'll be coming back full force the second and third week of January, and then we'll be ready to go for the first pay-per-view on Paramount. Just a lot of things going on with that on the 24th of January. What are your final thoughts, James?
Yeah, definitely. Final thoughts. Pretty overall bummed that we've still got another 5 weeks until a fight card. My Saturdays just felt empty so far. That being said, it just makes when it comes back, it'll just be all the sweeter, especially since we'll be on that Paramount. Don't have to worry about pay-per-views any longer. And you can get I think it's going to only be like $60 subscription for the year. And then that's every card.
That's awesome. Already there, man. Already paid for it. With James's picks, no less. So parlay James's picks to a whole year. Paramount Plus. We're going to have the college basketball coming on. We're going to have college football. 70%. Been flat. The last 5 weeks NFL, and then last week I did really well plugging in some information. So we're going to be set with that. So it's going to be a lot of content, and there's going to be a lot of money making. To be sure, we are working on some interviews as the weeks go on, and a lot of research, a lot of things are going to be playing out. However, 90% of the information we give away for free. And we always close with Winston Churchill. Salesmen think short term. Businessmen and women think long term. Long term thinking is higher level thinking. And Winston Churchill said, you make a living from your labor, but you make a life from what you give. Thank you for listening to the SPC Podcast Network.
I'm for whatever. Let's stay together.